All right, guys, I got a bit of an interesting video topic for you today. We're going to talk about how to win battles in Halo 5 using elementary math, which sounds super weird, and don't worry, before we even get started, I'm not going to make you solve mathematical equations to win battles in Halo. That doesn't make sense. But there is a concept in elementary math that I do think relates to battles in Halo, at least from a movement perspective. So this is more focused on your movement in Halo battles, not so much how to shoot and your shot, more so your movement. Now, the concept that I'm talking about is BEDMAS or PEDMAS. It's an acronym. You might remember it from elementary school, but it's an acronym that deals with order of operations in solving math questions. It stands for brackets or parentheses, and then exponents, division, multiplication, addition, subtraction, and you have to order so you have to solve mathematical equations according to that order of operations, and if you don't, then you'll get it wrong. With Halo, it's not as strict and rigid. There isn't a set order of operations in your movement, in your battles, that you have to follow, and if you don't follow it, you're screwed. But there is somewhat of an order of operations that you want to be cognizant about, and you want to know what's available to you and the priority of those things, basically. So when you're in a battle in Halo, there's four main movement options you have at your disposal: your strafe, your crouch, your jump, and your thrust. Right? Now, I know there's sliding, I know there's stabilizing, other types of, Spartan charge, ground pound, whatever, but typically in a regular battle in Halo, you've got an option to strafe, you've got crouch, you've got jump, and you've got thrust. Now, these four options, they are kind of listed in an order of importance right there. So your strafe is pretty much always your number one. Like 90% of the time, your strafe is the first thing you want to be doing in a battle. Your crouch is an option that you have. Depending on the scenario around you, you can crouch without adding too much risk. Then you have your jump and your thrust, which are your high risk and potentially high reward lifelines that you have at your disposal for movement. You can choose to jump, you can choose to thrust, but typically you want to do this after you've decided to strafe or crouch. Okay, now I'm going to show you a battle, and I'm going to try to use this theory to explain what's happening in the battle. So you're going to see a battle happen right here. I'm going to let it play.
Bluetooth diamond.
Let's get P2, P2.
So I go up to Car. I'm going to finish him off on top mid. Got a little awkward towards the end with that battle. Like I let him retreat. I did a thrust that retreated, and this is an opportunity to talk about it anyway. But typically, when you're in a battle in Halo, you want to start every battle with a strafe. Now, your strafe is always your priority, your number one, because your strafe is the fastest movement speed that you have available while still shooting and applying pressure, right? Now, when you're strafing, you can still apply pressure, you can still shoot, and you can get an understanding of your surroundings without committing too much, without jumping, without using your lifelines like thrust. So in the beginning of every battle, you want to be strafing, and you want to think about a number of different things while you're strafing. Your strafe isn't just to make yourself hard to hit. Your strafe is an opportunity to get awareness about what's happening around you and in front of you. While I'm strafing, I have to think about the geometry that's available to me. Do I have to jump? Do I have to thrust? Or can I take advantage of the map and my surroundings with my strafe so that I can have the best possible result here? Now, of course, while I was strafing here, I recognize that I have Car 3 beside me. If I thrust out to Car 3, I can jump up, get some high ground, and it'll put me in a decent position for the battle. However, I didn't need to jump. I didn't need to thrust in this battle at all. Watch this. I jump, thrust. He's one shot at the end of that battle. He's literally like 2 bullets left, and he would have been taken out. And I jumped, and I thrusted out of there. I'm on Car 2, half shields, and he has an opportunity to escape. Now I go up Car 3 and I give myself high ground, but the only reason I won that battle is because he decided to go to top mid. If he decided to drop down to bottom Car, let's say, in the tunnels, I wouldn't have been able to finish him off without overcommitting myself. So by doing this jump thrust, it was kind of like premature. What I should be doing instead is having, just the awareness in this battle to say, okay, I'm strafing right now. In this strafe, I'm actually up shots. I've shot him 3 times to his 1 time that he shot me. So at this point, when I recognize that, instead of jumping and thrusting out of there, I can continue strafing. Why jump? Why thrust? Why not just continue strafing, keep your ground, maybe move up a little bit, but not too close to encourage a melee, just enough to add pressure and encourage a thrust out of him so he burns his lifeline. Then I can choose if I need to thrust to chase, or maybe I don't need to thrust at all. Maybe I can just keep walking forward, turn to left, shoot him 2 more times, 1 more time to finish him off and get the kill. So when you're in a battle, basically, the start of the battle, you're always thinking strafe is your priority. You want a strafe to be hard to hit, to apply pressure, but your strafe is also your opportunity to get awareness of the situation. What is around me as far as geometry goes in the map? Do I need to jump? Do I need to thrust and burn my important lifelines that could be saved for a later battle? Or can I just continue strafing and continue applying pressure, like in this scenario where I'm up shots? I'm going to show another option here that happens afterwards. Remember how I burned a thrust there? It actually forced me to fall off of top mid because I was weak and I didn't have any more lifelines. I was forced to leave and escape that battle. Even after I won the battle, I was forced to escape, and I couldn't be, you know, a dominating force on top mid like I would have been able to have been if I didn't use my thrust. Anyway, so we're going to go into another fight that happens right here. I'm applying pressure to top mid. I'm on top pink. And, you know, I thrust back to get back to top mid and continue applying pressure. But at this point, I burned my thrust lifeline and I'm getting into this battle. Remember how I said strafe is important at the start of a battle? If I've already burnt my thrust lifeline, then strafing is 10 times more important. Because if you burn thrust and you decide to jump, that is basically one of the most horrible things you can do unless that jump has a purpose, has a reasoning, like a direction behind it. You're using it to gain a vantage point, whatever it is. If you jump in a battle and you don't have a thrust, then you're basically just doing a moon jump in the air with very limited momentum control, and you're just stuck in the air, and hopefully they don't hit their shots, and hopefully you hit all of your shots. So it's super, super risky to burn your jump lifeline if you've already burned your thrust. So because I've thrust into this battle, I should be thinking in my head that the strafe is even more important at this situation, especially because I have geometry to my left. You can see there's the top mid, this, like, whatever that wall is on top mid is to my left, and I can take advantage of that by strafing behind it, coming back out and peeking and applying pressure. But instead, because, you know, maybe I'm an idiot, I don't know, I make a rookie mistake, though. Instead, I do a freak-out jump. I just jump, and I have no lifeline. Watch this. Jump and die. I die because I chose to jump. If instead all I did was strafe to the left, I would have survived. I mean, look at the situation. You've got Evan and Doug. Evan pushing top mid, Doug pushing through the car side. These two opponents are right in front of me. If I duck down, they have both of their focus on me. Evan and Doug come in for the kill from behind. I would have stayed alive. That would have been totally fine. So recognize the scenarios when you've already burnt your lifeline too. Like when I burned my thrust to come into this battle. And that means that your strafe is even more important, and taking advantage of the geometry around you is even more important. So you never want to be caught in a jump like that after you thrust. It's even more risky, okay? I'm going to skip over to another clip. I'm not sure how long this is going on as a video, guys. I'm doing it all in one take, and I've got a bunch of timestamps here for the different clips. I don't like to clip a bunch of, you know, like jump cut everything together. I'm usually like a one take kind of guy, like all my analysis, but we're gonna go to another clip that I got right here.
There you go.
Okay, so this is an example of me burning thrust early, jumping and thrusting earlier than I needed to. Another situation where recognizing that strafe is top priority here, and you want to use your strafe to gain awareness and only burn your jump and burn your thrust at the very end when you absolutely have to, so you can survive longer. Watch this.
Yeah, big dog.
So I'm going to shoot this guy, take shots from my left, immediately jump thrust, and die. Okay? So I was shooting at opponent bottom mid. I recognized that somebody was shooting at me from my left. Instead of assessing the situation while I'm being shot and standing there and strafing and thinking, okay, he's probably either on the cafe ramp or in the hotel, instead I panic jump, thrust away, and I let him shoot me 4 more times for free, and I die as a result. All I had to do in that situation, or, you know, it doesn't necessarily mean I would survive, but think about it. What if in this situation, instead of jumping and thrusting away, I start taking shots in the left, using my awareness in that time that I'm strafing, taking shots? What if I decided to drop right beside the window on the truck? So, like, right beside that window that I'm basically in front of right now, instead of jumping, burning my thrust, if I just dropped right there, it would have cut off the angle that he has on the cafe ramp, it would have made it harder for me to die, encouraged him to throw a grenade, and if he throws a grenade, that's a window in time where I can either shoot him back or I can run. I can sprint, jump, thrust, get myself to the bottom of the lift, or get myself to U-turn and continue to help Evan out there bottom mid with the kill, right? So that early jump, that early thrust screwed me up, and if you remember what I said about order of operations, always strafe first and use the strafe to gather awareness of your situation and decide whether or not it makes sense. Do I need to jump? Do I need to thrust? Can I get out of this situation simply by dropping down and then deciding to use my thrust later, right? So that was an opportunity that I had, and instead I burned it early and I died because of it, okay? One more thing I'm going to show, and then we'll wrap this. So I get a kill here. I'm going to move up onto cafe. I'm going to let the first half of this play out just so you can see it. Apply pressure into cafe. Fighting this guy once again, thrust forward. I do manage to get the kill. Now, I used the thrust at the very end of the battle. Remember what I said? Let me just close. I've lost track of my cursor. There you see the thrust at the very end of the battle. And the forward thrust made it a little bit harder for him to take me out. Right here, I could have thrust. Like a lot of people, when they're getting shot, they want to move up to that window. They might jump thrust into that window. Instead, I take my time, I jump up to the window, and I continue to strafe, I continue to fire shots, and then I use my jump, I use my thrust in the end of the battle so I can thrust forward and aggress on him and force him into a situation where he might choke. Even I almost choked my shots in that battle, but this is a decent use of thrust because it allowed me to stay inside the cafe and avoid pressure from outside because there's a lot of battles happening outside, so it kept me in my own little cubby here, and I managed to aggress on him and win the battle. Now, that's fine, but watch this. Right after, immediately after, I'm shooting at this guy on nest, I'm approaching him, I thrust, clamber into this garbage truck. All of this is okay. Like, I don't know if it's good or bad. Like, at this point, I've burned my thrust. Probably not the greatest idea. I'm on the garbage truck now, and he's one shot. Look what I do. I immediately jump again. And remember what I said about jumping after you burn a thrust? If you burn a thrust, you, like 90% of the time, you do not want to jump again. Unless, like I said, that jump is a jump with purpose. You're trying to get to a specific location, higher ground, you're retreating, whatever it is. That way that I jumped there was me just jumping in open space with no thrust whatsoever. That is one of the worst things you can do in Halo. You're going to see it once again. Apply pressure, jump up, thrust to get onto the garbage truck, immediate jump, and immediate moon jump that leaves me completely vulnerable to the guy on bottom mid. Imagine if instead I didn't jump. Imagine if I just landed on that garbage truck, I fire the shots, put in the damage, I land on the garbage truck, clamber up, don't jump, just strafe and fall to the side of the garbage truck. Once again, if I fall to the side of the garbage truck, now I'm a hard target. Bottom mid can't kill me as immediately. He has to work harder, and he doesn't want to commit because he's stuck in bottom mid, right? He's trying to cap. So these are all different scenarios where you have to recognize the priority of your strafe. If somebody's shooting at you, remember that you can use your strafe to gather awareness of the situation, decide whether or not you have to jump, you have to thrust. Those are lifelines that you typically want to burn at the very end of the battle. So as far as order of operations goes, they come at the very end, right? If you burn your thrust early, remember that it's even more important that you go back to your strafe, because if you burn your thrust and you jump, then you're left floating in the air with no ability to escape, no momentum control, and it's horrible, right? Very limited momentum control, so you're screwed. So that's basically what I want you guys to remember. So it's not exactly mathematical, it's loosely related. I get it, but understand that there is an order of operations to battles in Halo. Your strafe is always your number one priority. Be confident in your strafe. While you're strafing, use your awareness to recognize the geometry and the map around you and whether or not it makes sense for you to thrust early, because you can take advantage of that geometry and wait to the last available second to use the thrust, or save it for the next guy, save it for the next situation, and that can help you, win and get out of more battles more frequently. So that's pretty much everything I wanted to cover. Hopefully that was overall relatively concise and I didn't ramble too much, but thank you so much, guys. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell beside the subscribe button. You will get notified the moment a new video comes up. Also, I want you guys to check out my Twitter, my Instagram, trying to, get out there on different platforms, starting to get the hang of this now. I'm going to link those in the description for you guys to follow me, and that's another place where you can keep up to date with what I'm doing in my life, not even just in Halo, but outside of my Halo YouTube. I do a lot of things related to esports, hosting, and commentary. Thanks once again, guys, for the video, and I will see you around.